Let's finish on Ja Morant. This situation in Memphis, which is bad and just not getting any better. The Grizzlies have lost 4 in a row as we tape this on Tuesday, 8 of the last 9. Ja now has a calf strain. Why does everybody have calf strains now? Calf strains are like, they're becoming a big problem in the NBA.
Well, it's because if you have a calf strain, everybody is so worried it's going to turn into an Achilles tear that what used to be like, it's fine, play on it, is no longer.
Yeah, after last postseason, when you had 3 stars go down with Achilles tears, they're being extra careful. I get that. This calf strain, though, for Ja, expect to keep him out at least a couple of weeks, maybe longer. The body language on him, speaking of that, is bad. It's bad. Like, the bounce he used to play with is gone. The aggressiveness that used to be a hallmark of his game, not there. His shooting percentages cratered completely, like gone. He is, I don't even know what the numbers are right now, but I think he's under 20% from 3 and under 40% from the floor. Numbers that are, he's never been a great shooter, but those are really bad numbers.
Not going to the basket anymore.
Not going, it's not him.
Yeah.
It's not him out there. It brings you back to the whole joy conversation he had a couple of weeks ago. Where do you go if you're Memphis? Like, you, up until this point, you've stood by Tuomas Isalo as your head coach. I don't think a coaching change is going to help. I don't think so either. I think we're past the point of coaching changes with Ja Morant. He's been given chance after chance with, now 2 different coaches in the span of 8-9 months. 3 coaches, if you want to include Noah LaRoche, who was fired with Taylor Jenkins, and it hasn't worked. But the problem is, and I talk to league executives about this stuff all the time, like, I don't know what the market is for Ja Morant. Like, the market for Desmond Bane is considerably bigger than the one for Ja Morant.
Sure.
Like, Desmond Bane fetched 4 first-round draft picks and some ancillary pieces. Ja Morant, can you get 1 pick and some salary filler back for a $40 million guy? I mean, he doesn't defend. He can't stay healthy. He's got the off-the-court issues that have plagued him. Like, what do the Grizzlies do here? Like, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's not working for Ja Morant, and I don't think they can trade him for anything more than nickels on the dollar.
I mean, I have maintained they can't trade Ja Morant. And I still feel that way right now.
Even now?
For a bunch of reasons, right? Trade value is one of them, and a big one.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Right? That is a big reason. If you can't get much back from him, it becomes not that worth it to trade him away. I think the fan base is attached to him in a way that people around the country and other markets don't quite absorb. It is a very identity thing. And we saw in Dallas with Luka, and I'm not saying the situations are comparable necessarily, but we know what happens when a franchise a fan base and a player feel very connected, and how devastating it can be to trade that player away, even if maybe in this case it's time. I don't think a coaching change is going to help. I think that either he has to ask for a trade, then it's not your fault with the fans, or he needs to realize this is it. And eventually you start losing shoe contracts. You start losing endorsements. You start losing, it's his career. He's twiddling his thumbs away. And at some point, if you can't get anything significant back for him, it's not worth trading him. And at some point, you hope that he can have some sort of moment where he realizes the person he's hurting most by pouting like this is himself. I don't know. And the waiting for Ja Morant maturity button to kick in, I don't know where we are in that, but to me, that's currently still the best course of action.
I just don't know what the pathway to healing between Ja Morant and Isalo is.
But do you really think that's the problem?
I think it's among the problems. I think Ja Morant is not happy with the way Isalo is coaching the team, even though Isalo has kind of re-embraced the whole, here's the ball, and you go make some plays offensive philosophy.
I think the important part of that sentence is the first half and not the second half.
Which part?
Ja Morant is not happy is more important than the with such and such.
Yeah.
Because there is all kinds of things we have seen, again, not a small sample size, with Ja Morant that have not made him happy. And as you pointed out, that's been including 3 other coaches. So I just don't think that's I think that's a symptom. I don't think it's the malady. I think you have to kind of try to go to the source, and somebody needs to have a conversation with him again, because we know there have been all kinds of conversations with Ja Morant about you have to stop doing this, you have to start doing that. Yeah, but at some point you hope it kicks in. You just have to look at what your other options are. Yeah. Your other option is try to trade him, not get much back for him, and alienate your fan base that is already, not
Dwindling.
thrilled with your team, and also dwindling.
Also dwindling.
Also dwindling.
Also not doing big numbers there at
So,
the FedEx Forum.
correct.
Also a team that's in a bit of a rut with that arena. And
Yes. There's talk of, would that be be a good team to play in
got a
Seattle?
Silicon Valley owner.
Right. Look, again, it's not a good situation, but that doesn't mean that there is a better situation out there by trading him.
This is how I kind of began, though. Like, it is a rock and a hard place
Mm-hmm.
because you got to really be a Grizzlies truther.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a Chris Vernon type Grizzlies truther
Shout out Chris Vernon.
to believe. Like, I've heard Chris Vernon on multiple shows, his own other podcast, talk about how when Ja Morant is healthy and Jaren Jackson is playing with him, they win games.
Yep.
Like, and that's true. Like, the statistics, they do bear that out. This, though, feels different. This feels like Ja Morant is giving up. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like he's like, I'm just done with this, in the same way that Jimmy Butler was done with Miami. It just feels eerily similar, the two types of situations from the player's perspective. Now,
I would disagree with that, by the way.
you do? Okay, why?
Yeah, because Jimmy gets clearly unhappy with
Jimmy wanted money
situations.
in that
Right,
situation.
exactly. And by the way, that was the problem in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, that is often the problem.
It's often the problem.
So,
yeah.
And by the way, his career has borne out that he does deserve to be paid well. And I would argue he has been. But look, he is unhappy with situations. There's definitely a Jimmy wears out his welcome and with franchises at some point so far. But there isn't we have a problem with Jimmy's motor, or if he's put in a new situation, we're worried that he won't play.
Well, they had a problem. Like, but the reason I think it's similar is because up until this year or the end of last year, there was no problem with Ja Morant's motor. Like, even when he was saying, I'm not going to dunk, and then going out there and doing like reverse windmills on Victor Wembanyama, like he still was going out there doing it. At the end in Miami, Jimmy's motor wasn't there. Like, Jimmy was kind of standing in the corner and just doing his thing.
He was striking.
pouting.
He was
Like,
on strike until,
striking.
he
But, like,
actually
is
went
Ja
on
Morant-
strike.
Ja Morant's kind of on strike too. And those aren't my words. Those were what Draymond Green, connected to Steph Curry, the conversation they had.
Right.
Where it looked like Ja Morant was on strike. That's why I think they're similar. Like, is Ja Morant on a form of Jimmy Butler-esque strike at this point?
But Jimmy Butler had trade value.
I mean, not incredible. He had a couple of teams. I'm glad you bring that up, because I want to shift to like who might be interested, because Jimmy's trade value was limited, right? Like, he was an older player. They wanted a contract. Phoenix was surefire going to give it to him because they didn't care at the time about spending money. Memphis was willing to do it at that time because they needed a player like Jimmy Butler. And Golden State, even though they weren't willing to do it initially, they came to an agreement, a meeting of the minds where Jimmy didn't get exactly what he wanted. Golden State gave a little more than they wanted. They kind of met in the middle on that extension. I think it's a similar, look, Ja Morant, you don't have to extend him. He's got 2.5 years left in this contract.
Okay,
And it's
so
a big number, but it's not that big. It's
So
like
you just
40
named
million.
3 teams with the Butler thing.
Yes.
What are 3 teams with John
I'm
Morant?
glad you asked, Rachel Nichols, because I've got them for you right here. I am going to look to the north, not to the Toronto Raptors, although that could be interesting too. I didn't really think about that. The Minnesota Timberwolves,
Timberwolves. I
because
knew it.
the Minnesota Timberwolves always have their name in the mix for a star.
I was like, can I say it at the same time as him? Yes, I think I can.
It's always Minnesota. It's always Tim Conley. Tim Conley is a swing for the fences type of GM. And Tim Conley right now has a point guard problem. Mike Conley is too old. Rob Dillingham isn't very good. And Dante DiVincenzo is good, but he's kind of a combo guard. So you need a point guard to compete with the best and the best. We saw that last year with the team and what they were at the end of that season. Didn't advance. Well, they got to the conference finals, but they would have lost to Golden State if Steph didn't get hurt. This year, I think they're going to have even bigger problems with no point guard, Conley a year older, Dillingham
I agree.
not stepping up. Ja Morant, maybe you bring Ja Morant to Minnesota. Maybe he doesn't really want to go to Minnesota, but whatever. But you bring him up there and you play him with Anthony Edwards. Maybe Anthony Edwards re-inspires Ja Morant. Maybe having an athletic superstar wing alongside him gets Ja Morant going. Do you want to weigh in on that before I give you my second team?
There's strict gun laws in Minneapolis. I just want to point that out.
Okay, okay, all right.
Just saying. Look, it depends on what you can get for him, right? The discussion we just finished was under the assumption of you're not going to get much for him.
Yeah,
If
fill
you-
the runner first,
right?
basically, yes. I mean, like Jaden
If
McDaniels would have to be in there. That's something, kind of.
Sure. I mean, if somebody is willing to make you a decent offer and you feel Ja at this point is more cancerous than not, I still think you need to sort of, at least the PR battle, you've got to make it seem, you got to really put out that he's on strike, even if he's not actually asking for a trade.
I mean, I feel like Memphis fans that numb to it. Like, he's not playing the same way. Like they watched him turn into a top 10 MVP candidate.
I
And he's
think
not
it's
that guy anymore.
I
And he's
think
not like
it's
he's
a
old.
concern. I'm just telling you, I think it's a factor. It's the factor that's got to be addressed. It doesn't mean it's the only factor. It's just something that's got to be addressed. Look, if Minnesota is willing to go to bat and be like, great, we're going to give up something at least halfway decent
Rob
for Ja
Dillingham,
Morant.
McDaniels, who's a big contract there. I mean, something like that. I think it's doable. And,
You know?
and obviously a pick would have to be through.
Right? I mean, they have a coach in Memphis they do believe in, and we've seen what.
Minnesota, right? Creative guy, yeah.
No. I mean, in Memphis.
Oh, in Memphis. They believe.
Meaning
Oh,
that
yeah,
if they
yeah.
just get players back who maybe haven't been excelling in, say, Minnesota, that they believe in their coach in Memphis.
Yes.
We just talked about the Toronto Raptors, and I think the way that coach is playing his players, he's getting the most out of them, and they believe they have that kind of coach too. Sure, if the offer is good and if they can figure out a way to mitigate the PR. What is your other team? Well, who are your other teams?
Well, the other team is right in the same region, and that is the Chicago Bulls. Because the Chicago Bulls, even though they're playing great basketball right now, they're kind of superstarless, right? They've got a bunch of guys that are pretty good.
Sure.
And maybe
Is
one
this
or two
after or before they trade for Anthony Davis?
They're not, maybe making a multi-team trade. I don't know. But I look at the Bulls, and could the Bulls be interested in pairing Ja Morant with a Josh Giddey in the backcourt? Giddey's like a 6'8" guard. You could play him alongside a Ja Morant. Giddey would take a lot of the playmaking responsibilities off him if he had to. I just look at Chicago. Could Chicago be a team that takes a big swing on a star? I think they're less likely than Minnesota because they've got Kobe White back. They were pretty good. And Giddey, like I thought this at the time, but like not to make this a Bulls conversation, but like I thought Giddey, that contract for the Bulls was phenomenal.
No,
phenomenal.
it's amazing.
Giddey like was going to outplay that contract year one. And when that gets to year 3, it's going to be a great deal. That Caruso deal was like the ultimate everybody wins deal with them. I just wonder if the Bulls, in need of a superstar, and if it's at the right price, a bargain basement price, would they take a swing on a Ja Morant still under contract for a couple of years?
Okay, so this is a serious question.
Yeah.
Would you take Ja Morant over Anthony Davis, or would you take Anthony Davis over Ja Morant if you are the Chicago Bulls and you want to at least target someone for a trade? Anthony Davis from Chicago.
I know.
Anthony Davis, injury
I
prone.
know which way you'd go. Well, I would probably take Anthony Davis.
Okay.
Because I think AD's got probably 3 more really good years if he can stay healthy. Always the caveat. And like, I don't think Chicago is desperate for a backcourt player. I think Giddey is in the All-Star mix this year. I think White is a good player. They've got a bunch of other guys there in that mix that are pretty good. I think they could probably use more defensive help in that front court. Yeah. Like so Vucevic, if maybe he gets reps or he gets traded.
That takes Chicago out of the Ja Morant conversation for me. Yeah. Because if they are going to make a move, if they are going to spend assets, look, we all know that Dallas is going to trade Anthony Davis. I mean, that was part of what was behind the change in the front office, was they had someone in the front office who absolutely would not trade Anthony Davis under any circumstances to try to prove himself right. And that
I hear a lot of people think that he's not. I've seen a lot of like Dallas is going to play this season out. Like, all right, well, we'll see about that. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, look, when they trade him, to me, is not as important because they're clearly not playing well anyway. So they're going to get a good pick. And it's just really a matter of, are you as an organization focused in making decisions around building around Cooper Flag? The Lakers clearly made a turn as the minute they got Luka of, we are now making decisions around Luka as opposed to LeBron James. And it has impacted who they've tried to acquire. It has impacted LeBron not getting the contract extension he wanted, et cetera. The Dallas Mavericks clearly are pivoting to, and should be pivoting to, we need to make decisions around Cooper Flag. And whether that's getting rid of Anthony Davis now or in February or in the summer, kind of depends on when they can get a good offer. But if you are the Chicago Bulls, to take this back to that conversation, and know that Anthony Davis is going to be available, is that a trade that you try to make over a Ja Morant trade?
Probably for all the reasons I kind of said there. I think the front court is needed. And if I were the Bulls, I'd be aggressive on AD now because I would see the opening. Right?
Absolutely.
Like you had AD.
And by the way, it's good
court.
for the Mavericks to have him off their books now, because then you really can tank. Whatever we call it, but for a high draft pick to put next to Cooper.
So Toronto was on my list too for a Ja Morant team. If they were going to take a big swing, again, price being right, they've got quickly in that backcourt.
If I were them, that feels...
They weren't high on my list. Like Minnesota was number 1 on my list of targets.
You really have to be a team where you think the locker room can absorb Ja Morant instead of Ja Morant absorbing the locker room.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the Raptors are that team. Also, it's cold and depressing for a lot of the winter in Toronto. And
all of the winter in Toronto.
we saw with Damian Lillard, like if you are not conditioned for that or expecting that, it can affect your play. I know these are dumb things to bring into a basketball conversation, but it turns out they're true. And I just don't think that Ja, if the whole point is we need Ja to be in a better mood than he is now because the mood he's in for Memphis isn't working, I'm not sure Toronto is the place for that. And that's with all respect to the great city of Toronto. But I don't. So you're really talking about the Timberwolves. And then it becomes...
Well, there was the final one on my list.
Oh, who? Okay, go.
Sacramento, because nothing matters in Sacramento.
Wait.
Sacramento, why not? Let's just go.
That
What
is
can
the
you deal?
ultimate deck chairs on the Titanic
Let's
for
make
both
a deal.
teams.
Let's drop Ja Morant into the most irrelevant situation
They
in
would
the
probably
NBA.
do that, actually.
Why not?
Why
of course
not?
They would.
He's a star.
Of course they would. They need a star. Of course they'd roll the dice on that. Now, I don't think they have anything to offer. You know, if you're trading Ja Morant and you're Memphis, you know you're going in a different direction.
What's the Sacramento pick situation? All I'm concerned about if I'm Memphis is great. Let's pivot. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
Memphis, they're going to need to reboot the whole thing. I don't know if that means Jaren Jackson Jr. will go. That probably not. They re-signed him. He's under contract. But look, if I'm Sacramento, screw it. If you can get Memphis interested in any of the flotsam they have on their roster and whatever draft capital they've got left, nothing matters in Sacramento. I've watched a few of their games. It is depressing. It is hard to watch some of those games because you and I were watching, like they were, 3 years ago now? They were so much fun in that middle of that Mike Brown era where they were lighting the beam and they had young stars. And at one point they had De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
Then they had Fox and DeMontis Sabonis and they looked like a team on the rise. And now they're a bunch of 30-year-olds and Doug Christie looks like just a deer in the headlights every single night.
I apologize. I can't give this person credit because I don't remember who tweeted it, but someone tweeted, do they just turn on the beam occasionally to make sure it still works?
I mean, why not? You're getting so Sacramento's my other team just because nothing matters in Sacramento.
Right. I think you got to see what you're offered if you're offered. Sure, I think you quietly make some phone calls, but I also think you have to have at least one more conversation with Ja of, hey, you are throwing your career away at this point. And that is the thing with athletes that is the reason why ownership always wins in labor negotiations, aside from we have billions of dollars and you don't, is that time doesn't matter to teams and ownerships in the same way it matters to players. Players have a limited number of years that their body is able to do things at the high level they want them to. And if you are a player, Ja Morant is not as young as Ja Morant used to be, you have to start thinking about, is this it for me? Am I going to turn into the guy where this is the obituary they write for me when I retire from the league? And maybe someone can still have that conversation with him. And if it still doesn't work, maybe that's your PR out too, to say, look, we have tried everything. We have tried.
Like, even if they didn't have this final conversation that you're asking for, they've had enough. They've had enough conversations with Ja Morant over the years about maturity, about the ability to be coached in a certain way, to fit into a system. They've had God knows how many conversations out there with that about him. I think they're all talked out. I think that we've reached the point of no return with Ja Morant